Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Derek, graphics for today's show. Oh, by the way, did you order that new software, the graphic software?
No, so that was pretty expensive, but I found some software that's actually free. In fact, if you want to say, I made a new graphic with it.
Oh my gosh. Hasn't anybody ever told you there's no such thing as a free lunch?
What?
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and four-time author, Tony Walker.
Free delivery, free money, free bonuses, free service, free dinner seminars, free. What is it about the word free that gets our attention so easily and, quite frankly, in many cases, sets the hook in our mouths to fall for all kinds of gadgets, gizmos, and sales pitches we might normally never think of falling for? Take this freebie pitch to me and my wife Susan some 40 years ago when we first got married. Not sure why, but as soon as we got married, we started receiving countless invitations by mail to travel to nearby so-called vacation hotspots so that we could attend free seminars to learn about all the advantages of owning a timeshare. Now, being a young newlywed, having no money and knowing about the adventures of free timeshares, I usually tossed the invitations in the trash until one day I just couldn't resist. You see, on this particular day, in desperate need of a portable Walkman and having no money to purchase one, I received a free timeshare mailer that enticed me to attend by offering a free, get this, really nice cassette player made by Sony. Yeah, you got it, with free headphones. Hey folks, this was the early 80s. Now, the Walkmans with headphones back then were the bomb. I'm telling you, everybody wanted one. And after hearing of the free offer to get one, I told Susan, this is the time to go hear the timeshare pitch. So off we go 60 miles away from home to hear a young man talk about timeshares. Well, I guess you know the rest of that story. After having to sit through a 4-hour sales pitch from a guy that seemed a little too slick to me, we were then forced to sit down and go through a pressure-packed sales pitch to try to get us to sign on the dotted line. After about 15 minutes of pressure tactics and they didn't work, I got up and walked away from the table and then demanded my cassette player with headphones from Sony. Looking like nothing on the picture, I got this. Anyway, it all proved to be a huge waste of time, and it proved once and for all there really is no such thing as a free lunch. Well, welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest coming to you free of charge, retirement planning specialist Tony Walker. And before we confirm why in this old world there's no such thing as a free lunch, let me introduce three folks here in the Louisville studios that are certainly not working for free today. America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orender, Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson, and finally, our associate producer, Miss Meek and Mild Mary Beth Combs. Okay, there you sit, thinking about all the so-called free stuff that's being pitched to you over the years and probably wondering if, in fact, what you thought was free actually was. In other words, one has to ask oneself when it comes to dealing with other human beings who may or may not always be thinking and working in our best interest, are these free offers really free, and how and what is the ultimate cost to you and I if we take the bait and jump on the free train wagon? Well, today I'm going to help you understand why the old saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch, is really true when it comes to the many offers and pitches coming, yes, from the financial world. Good stuff coming your way. I'm Tony Walker. I'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Our theme today focuses on all of those too good to be true sales pitches offered up by the financial world, and us being reminded that in the real world, 99.9% of the time, those supposed free offers we fall for really do prove a point that in the end, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Well, apparently someone forgot to tell the fellow that I knew years ago who opened a donut shop. You see, like most new businesses, my friend rightly so knew that he needed to advertise and market his donuts. And rather than going the usual route of buying advertising on radio and TV and whatnot, he decided to take a different track, a strategy of handing out free donuts to anyone who would want to try them. He figured that if he could cram his free tasty donuts into complete strangers' mouths, they in turn would rush to his donut shop and buy more of them at regular price. His strategy included attending public events and venues that included large groups of people and literally walking around and handing out free donuts. Sometimes these events numbered into the hundreds of people, which is a lot of free donuts to be passing out to complete strangers. Unfortunately, his strategy of handing out free donuts was a bust, and it wasn't long after giving away all these donuts that the donut shop closed for business. I guess someone forgot to tell him there really is no such thing as a free lunch. So how can you and I, when dealing with all of these free offers from the financial world, things like free bonuses on annuities, free tax savings on annuities, and 401k plans as well? How about this one? Free closing costs, and yes, even free money from the government. What are the top 10 ways that all of us have to deal with these free offers, and what are some things we need to keep in mind, and why you need a trained retirement planning specialist to help you figure out what's free and what comes with a cost? Well, the first thing we need to talk about is just simply the loss of use. You know, a lot of times people will tie up their money, and whenever they need it, they can't get it, or there are huge penalties to get it out, which we'll talk about in a minute. Inflation, that's another biggie. How are you going to account for inflation? And then how do you deal with the prospects of money now being worth more now than in the future? It's a huge issue, especially right now. Fees are number 3. Of course, we talk about fees all the time. This is why we only charge 0.8% versus 1.5% to 2% that most money managers charge. We want to keep the fees down so we can keep your costs down. We've got taxes, of course. We know all about taxes. What about insurance premiums? That's our next cost. We got interest paid to the banks. Well, they'll get you in a heartbeat. What about something called lost opportunity cost, or LOC? I'll go over that in our next segment, but that's one that gets everyone, believe me. Then we got number 8, stock market risk, bond risk, just risk in general. 9 is a biggie. Remember earlier we talked about that issue of attending all these seminars and wasting your time and running around town chasing CD rates. A huge waste of time is this issue of lost time. And then finally, penalties on annuities, which leads to our next question, which we get all the time. In fact, I label this tons of people because constantly I'm getting this question from people who keep hearing ads on the radio or on the internet about this very subject of this. Tony, I keep hearing advisors talk about huge bonuses I can get if I invest with them. How can these investments offer such large bonuses, and is there any penalty to try to get my money back? Well, in order to understand why an insurance company would be willing to give you a bonus, which in some cases is very helpful, but why annuity peddlers keep pushing these bonuses without telling you the full story, we have to understand something called surrender penalties. Now, in this example, what I did is I took an annuity, a 10-year annuity. Whenever you hear the word term, that's the term of the surrender charge that the insurance company is going to charge you if you go to take your money out within a certain period of years. There's 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 16 years. A lot of annuities, though, especially those of the fixed indexed annuity variety, have 10-year surrender penalties, which again means if you cash it in, there's going to be a penalty. So let's look at this just in the first year. If you get a policy that has no bonus and you take it out in the first year, the average penalty is about 10%. So let's say you put in $100,000. Before the year ends up, you say, I don't like this annuity, give me my money back. Well, they're going to only send you about $90,000. It's a huge hit. But look at what happens with a bonus annuity. And these are different for different types of annuities. But notice in this case, the person got let's say a 10 or 15% bonus or whatever it is. They surrender the contract in the first year. They take away the bonus. And in total, you're going to get about a 20% penalty. So you have to really understand what's going on and why these insurance companies would give these big bonuses. Again, let me reiterate, sometimes the bonuses are helpful, but you have to remember, if you're getting ready to toss your 401k into these bonus type products, especially if you're not working with a licensed agent that is also not a fiduciary, let the buyer beware. And remember, there's never anything such as a free lunch.
What?
Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to imagine something. We're going to go over to the whiteboard. This is really cool because I want to show you an actual case that I worked on. And this gentleman recently came into me. I'm going to change the numbers and the age a little bit to protect the innocent. But this is the typical thing I see. See, day in and day out, all I do is meet with savers. In fact, on average, I meet with about 30 people per week. That's on average. Actually, as we record this show on March 15th, 2022, in the Louisville office yesterday, I had a pretty busy day. I saw over 24 people. That was in one day. I started at 9 a.m. and ended at about 8:15 p.m. So folks, I work really hard. I love what I do, but my passion is making sure these savers don't get caught or get stuck in the wrong products thinking there's a free lunch out there, and this gentleman just about did. So this fellow was looking at a product that offered a 15% bonus on the annuity, which on the surface, he said, I really like that, Tony, but I want a second opinion. So he came in and I started asking him some questions. Now keep in mind, the gentleman was 75 years of age and had $200,000 to invest. And the first question out of my mouth, as an advisor, as a fiduciary, I felt I should ask him, okay, Mr. Jones, if you put this money into an annuity, when would you like the possibility of getting all this money back without a penalty? And he said, penalty, what are you talking about? And I said, well, on this bonus product, did they not tell you if you get the money out within a certain period of time, you're going to have to pay a huge penalty? And the gentleman said, he didn't say anything about that. So I said, well, let's imagine, go over that question again. When would you absolutely, positively want to get this money out? And he said, well, I don't think I'd want to tie it up more than 5 years, okay? So there's a problem. If he invests in this annuity, number one, that bonus may or may not pay anything after the bonus. He may not earn any interest whatsoever. And in 5 years, if he decides to take it out, he's going to get nailed with surrender penalties, which he did not like to hear that. So I said, why are we really doing this? He said, well, I want to protect principal. Okay, let's go back to the original goal of why I even wanted an annuity. And I said, okay, that's good. An annuity will do that. I want access to my money, okay, within 5 years, okay. Unfortunately, that annuity is not going to do that. What else do you want? He said, well, I'd like some income now. Don't need a lot, but I'd like some income now. And I want, in this case, we kind of zeroed in on this. In 5 years, the original principal to come to me, or if I die, to my family. I said, okay, we got some problems here. This ain't going to work with your goals. So remember, folks, when you're meeting with anybody, especially if they're not trained in the art of retirement planning, if they're not a fiduciary, they're under no obligation to share all this with you and disclose all of these facts that are pertinent to you making a rational decision about what you want. Again, could the bonus annuity work? Possibly it could work in some cases, but certainly this was the worst product this gentleman could consider. So what did I recommend? This is not a bonus annuity. This is what we call a MYGA. A MYGA stands for a multi-year guaranteed annuity. And again, these rates change all the time. But as we record this show, again, on March 15th, 2022, I said, what if we could do this, Mr. Jones? What if we could get you 3% guaranteed, 5-year guaranteed, and at the end of 5 years, you could get 100% of your money out. And in the meantime, we'll send you guaranteed $500 a month. So in other words, we're going to take this $200,000, invest it with a different type of product, insurance company, okay? It's going to pay him 3%, which is going to produce $6,000 a year in interest on the $200,000. We're going to send it to him monthly, and at the end of 5 years guaranteed, he can take the original $200,000 out and walk away. And he said, oh my gosh, that looks so much better, which of course he ended up doing. So you might be running into this right now, folks. With everything so volatile, with people looking for safety and security, believe me, the annuity peddlers are coming out of the woodwork, and they're going to be promising you things and making pitches to you. And you got to remember, wait a minute, stop. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And remember, there's never, ever a free lunch. By the way, if you're looking at an annuity right now, let me invite you to go to our website at TonyWalkerFinancial.com because there's a great download called Annuities Made Easy. Folks, I've been working with these products for years. I know annuities very well, and I'll give you the pros and cons to annuities. And more importantly, before you rush into a buying decision with any annuity or any investment for that matter, first of all, get with a fiduciary like Tony Walker Financial. Second of all, get a second opinion and make sure you fully understand the pros and cons of the products you're looking at. When I come back, third segment coming up, boy, this is going to be a doozy because we're going to cover another one of the costs that people do not understand. It's called lost opportunity cost, and how this idea of tax-deferred savings on your taxes may not be savings at all. You stay tuned. I'm Tony Walker. I'll be right back. Who can you trust? It's one of the most important decisions you'll have to make. Question is, are you ready? Well, we're here to help at Tony Walker Financial. You know, we care more about you than we do your money, and we have over 2,000 happy clients and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau to prove it. Rolling over a 401k, confused about Social Security, maybe you're afraid of running out of money. Learn how to use and enjoy and protect your hard-earned money. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. In 1986, 2 years into the financial world, my interest shifted from selling home and auto insurance and looking at life insurance and investments and trying to help my newfound clients on ways to save on taxes created by the mutual funds I was selling. And knowing at that time in my young career very little about either, I began researching all sorts of ways to save my clients money on taxes. One of the harebrained ideas I was pitched by the financial world was a way to have my cake and eat it too, a new investment that would take advantage of stock market gains while avoiding taxes. In other words, free money, right? I mean, if you can save on taxes, that's like having extra money. So in 1986, off I went, pitching this new product called a variable annuity. Unfortunately, after learning how to properly count the cost of tax savings versus something in economics called lost opportunity cost, I soon discovered that the high fees charged on these variable annuities pretty much wiped out any tax savings they offered over time. In other words, after being convinced that I was saving my clients on taxes and giving them back free money, I realized that the old adage really was true. There's really no such thing as a free lunch. Yet, here we are some 40 years later, and the insurance companies peddling free tax savings on annuities are at it again. In fact, this one calls it the triple threat of compounding or something. I don't know what that's all about. Now, thankfully, even though the headline says enhance your growth through tax deferral, Derek, look at what it says down at the bottom. This is key, and it's in the small print. Tax deferral allows for greater earnings potential over time, proving there really is never a free lunch. So what I thought I would do is try to help you understand opportunity cost and what I do as a planner when I'm trying to examine numbers. Now, some of this I'm going to go over is probably going to go over some of your head. That doesn't matter. What we're trying to do is understand that you just can't take the headlines, even on an annuity, which might save you money in taxes, and just assume because it's tax deferred, you're in the clear. Same holds true for your 401k plan. You've been pre-tax savings, all that money, it's tax deferred, but it could actually cost you more in taxes depending on your future tax bracket. So let's, our own Heather Hughes has helped me with this. Let's go over to the whiteboard and take a look at two different things you could do. One person, we'll just call it person A, decides to invest in a mutual fund. Person B, $100,000 in a variable annuity. Now keep in mind, this is an after-tax mutual fund. Everything it creates, short-term interest, short-term capital gains, long-term capital gains, is going to be taxable. Overall, we'll assume the rate of return is 10%, and we'll say they're in a 20% tax rate, okay? So everything it's kicking off, yes, in fact, will have to go on that tax return and be taxed. So the future value of this in 20 years is around $672,000. However, the real amount after taxes, you take all that out, is about $575,000. Now, on the surface, if you say, well, wait a minute, if we got 10% on the variable annuity, 10% of that, well, we'd get $672,000. We wouldn't have all these taxes to have to deal with. What the variable annuity doesn't tell you is basically it had a 3% fee on there. Okay? So back when I was doing this, I didn't understand the importance of keeping fees down. Remember the no free lunch? I just thought I was saving everybody in taxes. Because once you deduct all the fees out of that variable annuity, bring it all down, then you got to pay the taxes at the end. See, that's the other thing too, it's tax deferred. So at the end of 20 years, any of that gain, so the gain would be $365,000 is the future value after all those fees. So we're already falling behind. Plus, you take the 365 less the 100, so that means I have a gain of ordinary income of $265,000. So now I owe another $50,000 in taxes. Folks, this is putting you down to around $220,000. Then you have the prospect, which is what I'm so concerned about now. We're going through all these tax-deferred savings, and everybody's loading up on these pre-tax 401k plans and, quote, thinking they're saving on taxes. What if the future tax rate for some reason in 20 years is 40%? Folks, I don't think anybody's really thinking about this. You have to understand something. With our nation's debt running over $30 trillion, with people getting older and older and trillions of dollars in these current tax-infested 401k plans and IRAs and 403bs and thrift savings accounts, even those of you who are getting ready to take a lump sum pension, this is why you need someone like Tony Walker Financial. Folks, for more than 37 years, all I've done is sit down with savers to help them use and enjoy and protect more of their hard-earned money. And one way we do this is understanding, first of all, that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, and that second of all, there really is no free lunch. You have to get with a trained advisor that understands numbers, that understands what it is you're looking for, and then someone that has the know-how and the staff and the fiduciaries to lay out a game plan, written down, communicated, so you and your loved ones can understand that. So if you don't have anybody like that, let me make this offer to you right now. Why don't you do this? Why don't you log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com just to get a second opinion on your finances. If you're retired, retiring soon, maybe you just received an inheritance, maybe you got an old 401k out there that needs to be looked at, contact us right now, TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on that Let's Get Started. Your information is confidentially sent to our offices and there's no cost or obligation to meet. Or better yet, if you'd like to, just call the toll-free number on your screen. Well, what does the Bible have to say about no free lunch? Well, actually, there's a very important attribute of God that He's willing to give you and I, and guess what? It's absolutely free. I'm going to need another cup of coffee for this one. I'll be right back. Hang in there. So you've worked 30 or 40 years slaving away at work so you can save away money into your 401k, and now you arrive at the biggest financial decision you're ever going to make, where to invest your 401k plan. Think about it. For all these years, you've had a steady paycheck, compliments from your employer for all of your hard work that you dedicated to them. But now, all of a sudden, you've got to figure out how to replace that paycheck with the money you've been saving. No wonder you're worried about what to do and who to trust with that money, which is why we at Tony Walker Financial are providing a brand new free service called the 10-Minute Fiduciary Phone Call. And here's how simple it is to learn more about our services and our 401k rollover process. First, just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Once there, click on the Let's Get Started button. You'll be taken to a page. Confidentially, you can fill out your information on the screen and then click below the best way for us to speak together. It could either be myself or one of our other trained fiduciaries. It's that easy. So what are you waiting for? Before you make a rash decision and blindly turn your money over to a complete stranger to invest, consider a name and a firm you can trust, Tony Walker Financial. And, oh, by the way, if you like, you can give us a call to speak to us at any time by phone by simply calling the toll-free number on your screen. I'll look forward to speaking with you soon. Ever had this happen to you? Acting on a free offer that sounds too good to be true and finding out the hard way that it truly is too good to be true. You all of a sudden realize that there's no such thing as a free lunch. Well, the Bible reminds us of this as well. We're in Proverbs chapter 20, verse 25. It simply says, It is a trap for a man to dedicate something rashly by saying it is holy, only later to reconsider his vows. In other words, haste makes waste, and let the buyer beware before rushing into a decision based on a supposed free offer from the financial world. Free bonuses on annuities, free tax-deferred growth on investments, free financial dinners, seminars, and yes, free money from the government usually always come with a catch and sometimes a cost to you. Yet, believe it or not, there is a free gift from God that comes to us at no cost, and it's called God's free Spirit. You see, the wonderful thing about saving faith is that no matter how bad and goofy things here on earth get, no matter how desperate and despondent you might feel this very day, the God of the universe has made available to us a free helper whose cost has already been paid for by God. So how do we get this free spirit? Well, first, you have to realize you need it. And then second, you then have to ask for it, just like David did in Psalm 51:12, where he says, "Restore unto me the joy of thy salvation, and uphold me with thy free spirit." Paul knew a thing or two about God's free spirit, as he reminds us in Galatians 5:1, and also discusses this in Romans 6:23. Oh, speaking of all that free food being offered by those free dinner seminar invitations you keep getting in the mail, think all these friendly advisors offering you free food is enticing? Just check out what Jesus said about the free and everlasting food he offers in John 6:35, where he says, "I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall not hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst." In other words, the free food and drink offered by the world not only comes with a cost, but it doesn't last. After we eat and drink of the world's goods and services, we'll become hungry again and thirsty again and head right back over where we first started, hungry and thirsty for more. Why? Because none of this stuff here on earth lasts, and neither do we. Only God has the ability and the desire to provide you and I with what we need just for the day and for eternity, which is true, lasting joy. But Tony, you ask, how do I get this free spirit, the same spirit David and Paul received? Well, that's where Jesus comes to the rescue. We see that while all of his disciples were worried about how they would cope with the Son of Man when he departed the face of the earth, Jesus knew this was the real good news, where in John 14:26, he promises that he will send us a helper. The helper? Well, God's very own free spirit, not just to comfort us, but to teach us how to depend on the free gift of grace and mercy offered by God. And that, my friend, is a freebie from God you can take to the bank. Well, speaking of there's no free lunch as a free lunch, believe it or not, what I'm about to offer you is absolutely free and comes at no obligation to you. There is, I guess, a cost, and that's simply 10 minutes of your time. That's why we call this the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. And it's available to you by responding in one of two ways. First, you simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and click on the Let's Get Started button to schedule your free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. Now, once your information will be confidentially sent to Tony Walker Financial, we will not share that with outside advisors, but contacting you to set up this free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. Oh, by the way, if the internet's not your thing, why don't you just call the toll-free number on your screen and let the answering service or one of our staff know that you'd like to set up a free 10-minute fiduciary phone call with myself or one of our salaried fiduciaries. Well, that's all the time we have for now, but you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you remember to be worry-free. Make it a good one.